We don't
Yeah,
physically
and where is that established?
in the movie.
They don't say which one.
In the beginning. In the beginning of the
so
movie,
they don't say. So they were just beings that happened to bring him at that exact part at that exact time. That's contrived.
no, it's not.
That is insanely contrived.
They're from
Yeah,
the
that is
future. They know
contrived.
what's going to happen. They had.
What? What? I'm sorry. What?
So there are fifth dimensional beings in this universe that just know everything that's gonna happen.
Yeah, sorry. You
Sounds like
broken this
low-key.
even- You yeah.
This-
I was
No.
gonna say
Yeah.
you've broken this even more. If this
Yeah,
is
I was
true.
gonna say if that's true, if there's fifth dimensional beings in this universe that know everything that's going to happen, then that makes the movie kind of worse
Yeah.
How?
because they can
why-
literally
why
just
are you
change
letting
time and use it
No,
to
They
fix
can't
it
change.
before it ever happens.
No, you
Yes.
can't change time. That's
But he's did.
And
That's
what
what he
the-
did.
no.
He
Yeah,
did,
that's
though.
what he
He
did.
changed. He pushed
No,
the books.
He's doing things that already happened. He's just moving along things
No,
that need
he
No,
caused
that's
those
not
things to
that's
happen.
not how it works.
Yes,
Him
it
in the
is.
future caused those things to happen. Him in the future.
Yes,
He
they
did those.
they already happened from his perspective. Or
It does, but from his perspective, he's doing it. He's causing
Yeah,
it.
but
So
that,
it is going to the past. So that basically means you're saying there's these beings out there that could go to the past. They can change things. They don't do it.
Also, the
you can't-
theoretical physics that you're talking about isn't actually in the movie. You have to look at this stuff
no,
like
it's
outside materials in order to
don't.
understand.
no, you don't.
No, you
It's
do,
also
you
not
do, actually,
correct.
because
I would
here's
just
the
like to
thing.
point out
So
it's actually not correct theoretical physics. So
it's literally Thorne's writing.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem here. If you want to go by theories, you need to clearly establish which theory and what the theory consists of, because
Yeah,
we have to. Because if these are theories, if these aren't like actual truths, then we have to physically go study the theory and learn what it is. That doesn't work.
They explain.
The reason we don't have to go to outside sources to understand, like when a ball is thrown, it comes back down. It's like, oh yeah, gravity. That's something like that. This is proven.
Yeah,
It
and
exists.
they explain in the movie that gravity is not moored by time. It can go backwards and
But
forwards.
you
in
said,
time.
but you weren't
It's
making
not-
that
it's-
argument. Hang on, so you weren't making that argument. You were saying it's a theory in real life science. You didn't
Yes, it is.
actually provide a citation.
Okay, so it is based on Einstein's theory of relativity. This is gravity is not a I'm trying to think of the right word to say this. It is not moored by time. It can't. It isn't like entropy, which can only go forwards. Gravity, like space, can exist forwards and backwards. So theoretically, based on this, if you were a fifth dimensional being, time is the fourth dimension. If you were a fifth dimensional being, you can use and manipulate gravity to affect time.
I'll just explain in a movie.
Okay, so then
This is in the movie.
So you're saying that.
No, it's not.
They literally say it in the movie.
All right, calm down.
Can you cite it?
Yes. When they're on the when they're on the Jesus Christ, cryptid. Or someone is hot making or something. So in the
What?
movie,
Cryptid, you're echoing.
when they're on the water planet, Brand establishes that time cannot go forwards. Time cannot go forwards. You cannot go backwards in time. You can manipulate time, but gravity is the only thing that can go forwards and backwards in time.
Where is
Using
that in
gravity.
relation to anything with the Tesseract or the library at the end? That was something completely different that they were talking about in that.
Literally the same. Again, so the Tesseract was placed there by fifth dimensional beings. This is directly said in the movie.
So the Tesseract is the library thing, right?
Yes, it is a four-dimensional cube, essentially. Yes, and they say in the movie, like when he's in the library and he's talking to the robot, who is also in the black hole. They say that the Tesseract was placed there by the fifth dimensional
So
being.
why they do it? Why they do it?
Why did they place it there?
Yeah.
Okay, so the fifth dimensional beings are in the future, but because they're fifth dimensional, they can affect the past. So what they did, and they're humans from the future, so they already know that this stuff happened. They are just making it happen. You can't change the past. It's one
But
time.
you can. They showed it.
No,
can.
Yeah.
They can.
You can't.
We literally saw him doing it. He
Again,
was pushing the books.
Because
saw
the
him
thing
pushing
we
the
saw,
books.
it's already
yeah,
happened.
because the thing,
No,
well,
it didn't already
no,
happen.
the thing that the thing that happened in the beginning wasn't happening like already. That it turns out by the end that the only reason that thing was happening was because Matthew McConaughey was in that little life.
Yeah, he was changing the past.
Because he's in the present. From the future, these things have already
It
happened.
doesn't. It
Oh
doesn't
my
matter.
God, that's
he's,
not how
he's
it
doing
works.
it.
Yes, it is. It's
He's-
literally how it works.
No, hang on. The books were falling. Why are they falling? It's because of Matthew McConaughey. He
Yes.
did it. So
But
you can change
He's
the
literally
past.
so he's literally changing the past.
Yes.
Again,
Yeah.
from
This is how
his
this works.
from his perspective in the Tesseract, he cannot change. Like, what would be the word? He can only do things that have already happened across the time stream. So if
Well-
humans don't survive, he can't save them. What he realizes is that the beings from the future, that the beings that gave him the Tesseract and gave the humans the wormhole, are humans from the future, and they're essentially just making sure that the things that happened that guaranteed a human
So
survival.
they can change the past. They can
No,
change
there's-
the past.
Yeah, because if he wasn't there in the library and he didn't do what he did, then the thing that happened in the beginning would never have happened.
Yeah.
Wait, he's already experienced that past. He can't change it.
No.
He
can't.
literally can.
How can he change it?
Not
Because
pushing
he
the books.
So
Not
yeah, I
pushing
was
the
gonna
books.
say he could have chosen not to push the books.
Yeah.
No,
What if
he
he
already-
didn't? What happens then?
So
Well,
yeah, what happens if he decides not to push the books?
Well, he was always going to. So
No.
No,
what
but
if
he no,
wasn't?
but he
That's not
could
the
have
point.
chosen not to.
Yeah. Exactly.
no, actually, if it's already happened, he can't choose not to do it.
Yes, he can.
Yeah. He can.
Alright.
That's how this works.
So literally in the scene where he's pushing the books, he is trying to change the past. He's trying to prevent himself.
So you
From-
can change
Yes,
the past.
but
That's our
yes,
point.
No,
yes,
'cause it already
exactly.
That is our point.
Oh my
You
God,
can change
dude.
the past.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I
This
can
is getting
explain
me
that.
thinking. Grant, we should do a thumbcast watch party on this.
We should, yeah.
Yeah.
Hell
this
yeah.
is- I'm based on
I'd
what
be
I'm hearing
down to
right
be
now,
there,
I
Nice.
do not have faith that this movie holds up at all.
Yeah,
I'd be
uh,
down to be there for it. I've never seen it.
Last time I watched it, it
Me
was
either.
4 out of 10.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm posting the scene right now, and when he first gets there and he notices that that it is perceiving the past and that he can like affect the past, he tries to make himself stay in the past, but he realizes that he is just reenacting things that have already happened from his past perspective. He can't prevent himself from going because
But what if he
is already
did?
But he literally
if he didn't?
can.
no, he can't
What if-
because
What if he just decided not to?
if he is there, he can't change. He can't make it to where he never left.
He can though. He can just leave.
Wait, are you
Yeah.
saying like it's predetermined basically?
Yes, it is
So-
one time stream.
So you're basically saying everything is predeterministic.
Yes, that is the
That's-
most likely version of time. That is
That doesn't work.
yes,
Yeah.
it does. It's literally the most probable
No,
time.
the idea of time being predeterministic is broken on a fundamental level.
No, it isn't. It is like the idea that you like
Just
the
to,
idea.
just to be clear, the idea of it being predetermined is kind of like agreed upon, but what you're talking about is the idea that the entire movie is based on the fact that he would never make any mistake in carrying it out exactly the way he did.
Yeah, what
If
if
that
he
makes
just
sense.
didn't? Yeah, what if he made a mistake and didn't even end up in the black hole at all?
Well,
What if
then,
what if he died?
like he doesn't though.
But he
Like,
could have.
That's not the point.
That's
Yeah.
the point is he could have.
No, because he's like
No.
one.
Yeah, he could have.
No,
So
we're
from
trying to. You're trying to hang on. Stop. You're trying to argue that they can't manipulate time. The whatever fifth dimension people that you're talking about. You're saying that they can't manipulate time when we're shown that he can. We saw Matthew McConaughey do this. The reason we're asking you,
But he's-
what if he didn't do it? Hang on. The reason we're asking, what if he didn't do it, is because if he didn't do it, the books falling wouldn't have happened.
Yep.
No, he tries
Yeah,
to
agreed.
make. No, that's not how. Again,
It, we're talking about whether or not they can time travel or manipulate the past. We're not talking
You're
about
asking-
whether or not he
Yeah,
would.
and also your theory basically says the whole movie relies on everything happening exactly precisely the way they did.
Which is literally
bullshit
the Infinity,
because
it's the Infinity War
How?
and Endgame problem.
yeah,
No,
it's
no, the Infinity
literally
War
the same.
Endgame problem have a multiple timeline. This is a closed loop timeline.
No,
Yeah,
No,
multiple
that's
timelines
not the
is
problem
better.
with that.
that doesn't fix it.
Yeah, that doesn't fix it at all.
Because the whole movie is essentially relying on literally every little thing happening exactly like it does, when at any moment, at any point in the mission, an extremely dangerous mission that they're on, by the way, he could have died or just not made it back to the ship on time and then died on the planet and stayed there forever.
He
Yeah,
could
this
have.
breaks the
It's not.
movie.
The
This
problem
The
breaks
with
rest
a
of the
closed
movie
loop,
didn't happen.
the problem with a closed loop film is that if we see something if we see someone travel from the future into the past and it happened, it means that nothing else in terms of like stakes in the film matter because we
Yep.
know he will have had to
Yep.
have survived. That's the problem. So as soon as you have Matthew McConaughey affect the past, that just means, well, until he does that time manipulation, he's going to survive. So the plot of the movie just doesn't really matter.
What do you
We
mean?
know it's going to work out.
What you
Yeah,
saying
because
is
it essentially butchers any and all stakes, essentially.
So, okay, for example, right, let's say Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Sure.
Let's take that as an example. If the plot of Into the Spider-Verse was watching Gwen when she gets knocked back 2 weeks and seeing if whether or not she stops the experiment happening, we know that's never going to happen because otherwise she wouldn't be able to go back there. Does that make sense? She has to not stop the experiment happen. Whereas this movie takes place as if it was in those 2 weeks. We know he has to succeed because we already see him affecting the past. So a closed loop film like that, it doesn't really matter. Nothing happens.
Wait, you
It's
from
just
the
a predetermined film.
from the wait no. If you're watching it the first time, you don't know that it's him affecting the past. You think it's the fifth dimensional beings in the present trying to affect the past, so humans can will be saved. You don't. But by the end of the movie, you realize that humans were saved. Like when he's like in the Tesseract changing things, you realize that humans were saved, and he's just moving along the pieces to make sure it happens, and to
That
make it
doesn't
happen.
fix it.
What do you mean?
It's still, the problem still exists.
What problem? I don't understand the issue here.
oh my
The
god.
clo-
The
the
issue
close-
here is
problem
that
is-
you can't seem to agree that they're able to change the past, that they can determine what happens in the past. You seem to not be able to agree on that.
So
Problem with a closed
that's-
loop that affect,
wait,
he
if
is the
that's-
causation. He's the
Yeah.
causation and the effect.
Also,
You
if
can't
you
have a
wanna-
closed loop where you're the cause and the effect. There
Why?
has
I
to
want
be
to
something
argue
else
that
there.
he just can't change the past. Okay, how do they do it then? How?
you can manipulate the past, but it's all on one timeline. You can't prevent yourself from
What?
never going.
Okay, this is
Yeah,
the
you
problem.
can.
Physically, it doesn't. The problem with that is that if you say, okay, the Matthew McConaughey from the future causes the Matthew McConaughey from the past to become the Matthew McConaughey from the future, and you can go on and on and on. The problem is, where does that start? You have to have a starting point for how that loop's created. And if that starting point is Matthew McConaughey, which it is, it doesn't work. It has to
Well, no,
be an outside source.
the-
Also,
starring-
this relies on him even surviving up until this point. What if at some point before this movie even started, he just so happened to get cancer and die before this ever even happened?
He doesn't.
That's
though.
very unlikely.
But he could have. That's the point.
No. Okay, so from the perspective of the fifth dimensional beings from the future, they know that that the human race was saved because they exist. Like they know that the human race was able to make it off Earth, but they understand that without them acting upon it, or they need to place the wormhole in the vicinity of
So they had to change time.
So yeah, so they have to manipulate things to be exactly where it needs to be, essentially.
Which
Yes.
means
Doesn't
they could have
work.
done a lot of this shit earlier.
Wait, what do you mean?
And not to mention the whole film, the way it is shown and the way it takes place, easily could have ended up in a point where Matthew McConaughey never ended up anywhere near where the wormhole is placed.
No. Like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
So-
What was confusing about what I said?
So, in like, what could have happened that would have prevented him from being like
He died.
being
He could have died in the wave or the water planet, or he could have died on the ice planet,
but it doesn't happen.
or the
That
ship
doesn't
could
matter.
have
That
crashed.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
that doesn't matter. And also, the ship could have had some kind of malfunction and crash and get destroyed before they ever get there.
But it can't happen because it didn't happen.
But it could have.
No, it can't because it didn't happen.
So you're saying what you're essentially arguing is that in the movie that did happen is the only thing that could have happened. Essentially,
Yes, across the entire.
which is the Infinity War problem.
It's across the entire timeline. It's the thing that it's the,
basically low key. Basically low key.
no Loki has
You don't.
Loki has multiple timelines.
That doesn't matter. That's not what we're saying. The whole predeterministic thing is
No.
is the same problem with Loki and Infinity War.
But
Regardless,
Loki isn't predeterministic. You can make
the amount of timelines there are doesn't matter because what you're saying is essentially every event that occurs in the movie is a predeterministic thing.
yes, you still have to act out. You can't just like not do anything. You still have to act out what happens. But
But he doesn't. Also,
does,
yeah, he could have said no to the mission.
it wouldn't. No, he couldn't.
He could have.
Like as a father, it wouldn't make sense for him to do so to begin with. It wouldn't.
I mean, yeah,
it's-
there's a really low chance of winning.
If there's a really low chance of actually succeeding, then no, that would not be an out of character thing for a dad.
Earth has a 0%. Humans have a 0% chance that they stay on Earth though, within the movie. So if there's
they could find someone
No.
else.
Yeah.
where would they find somewhere else?
Isn't I don't understand.
Well,
I don't know because the world building.
I was gonna say
doesn't
well,
make
yeah,
it very clear, but there could be
yeah,
other
the world
astronauts.
building's really bad, but they could find. Not only could they maybe migrate to another planet nearby, but also
No,
bunkers, for example, underground.
Their crops are dying. How are they going to build? How are they going to make food?
What?
The whole point of the movie is that their crops are dying and they're going to starve. But the people who actually
What about fish? What about animals? What about meat?
Yeah, what do you think like animals survive on? And also, we can't survive on a lot of the things animals survive on. In terms of like mass livestock, they eat a lot of the things we grow.
Well, what about each other?
And also, even the other thing is, it's not just that our crops are failing. The blight, most of Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah. Also, I was gonna say this sounds really bad, but you can start eating the people who are dead already.
Yeah,
Will
but
that
eventually,
get you sick?
that would make you sick.
Yeah, I'll make you. That would be worse.
But it's not.
But I'm
just,
saying, but you said how
not-
could they survive? And I'm
it's
giving
not
you a
just-
way that they could survive.
No, it's not just
Hang
the
on.
starvation.
So what about if you keep if you grow the plants in more controlled environments? Is that not possible?
No, it's even
Why?
besides that. Even
Why?
besides
Grow them like
even
inside and
besides the
protected. You can't do
starvation.
that.
Even besides the starvation
See,
problem.
now I'm remembering why this film was so bad. Man.
Yeah.
Actually, you're just not like you just
No,
don't.
sorry,
know
your
what-
defenses aren't your defenses
Dude.
aren't well founded. I
Okay.
didn't even watch this
Yeah.
for a while, and I can already tell like you're getting stuff wrong
and
You're
also
contradicting
yeah.
in the film.
So you
and what you're saying.
I want to hear your
I need to
answer
make
to
the
the
point.
question. Like I want to hear your answer to the question we asked, which is, could they not just grow crops or plants in a controlled indoor environment?
No,
Yeah.
because the
Why?
blight is eating
This
up the
happens
Earth's
in real
oxygen.
life.
Okay,
You can
get
do
it.
this
What?
in real life.
Okay, do you want me to explain?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
at this
Yeah.
point, at this point in the world, the blight that is destroying their crops is also eating up the Earth's oxygen.
The
That
light
is
that-
why you do it in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
What controlled environment would you like?
We just told you a secure
just told
inside
you.
environment.
Wait, what secure environment? A secure environment?
Literally anything. You could make anything.
Mhm.
Also, underground bunkers exist.
Where would
Yeah.
you get the oxygen?
So
What do you mean, where would you get the
can't
oxygen?
Produce our own oxygen. You know
Yeah,
that.
you
Breathe
need
it in.
plants to do that, and the plants are dying off. Yeah, like humanity.
So
has
how
keep plants
how would
inside.
you preserve the oxygen?
There's
in
ventilation
plants
too.
then?
Do you not know what that is?
You don't need oxygen from another source that ventilates.
What? Then what's your
What?
point about the oxygen?
Yes. Okay. So in the world building of the movie, in
Which is
the
bad.
Yeah.
you haven't explained why that is.
No, we
Um,
have.
No, actually, you haven't. So so just to lay out the story again, the world again. There is this is like in I think the mid to late 21st century. In the last 30 to 40 or 50 years, most of the Earth's governments, due to starvation, a significant portion of the Earth is not alive anymore. I think it's only like a fraction of what we currently have today. This is established in the movie. A lot of countries and governments don't even exist anymore, and we're just focused on trying to grow as many crops as we can and survive and eke out as far as we can. The issue is there's an ecological disasters with the blight and the dust storms, to where the only crop we can grow at this point is corn.
This is why I said to bring
So-
them inside.
Yeah,
That's
I was
why.
gonna say. So once all these things started happening, why didn't they convert and start preserving their oxygen in their plants in indoor controlled environments rather than continuing to grow them outside?
Yeah.
They did. You see that NASA tried this. The blight is still the blight is still destroying.
So then the whole issue of them running out of food is irrelevant. I don't know why you brought it up.
No, NASA tried this. The blight is still killing all the planets that are
How?
on Earth.
How? Why is it not working?
Because the blight is still
That you keep saying the
That's
blight.
not. Yeah, that's not an explanation.
they show you within the movie that they are trying to save corn so it can be a viable food source, but they can't. They're not able
But
to.
that's something they were doing as a last resort effort. I'm saying, why didn't they do this from the beginning?
What are you saying? Like
I'm
So,
saying
why didn't
NASA.
they do this
The
from the
thing,
beginning?
the thing that NASA was doing that
how are
you
you
tried
going
was
to mass
no, hold
produce
on, hold on. The thing you just explained that NASA was doing was a last ditch effort to preserve the crops and humanity. And I'm saying, once all this shit started happening, why didn't they just do this from the beginning?
because there's not enough. You can't create enough food for like the majority of the human population.
You
And
can.
just
You can
create
create a
them
lot.
to feed like millions and
And again, you tried to
billions of
argue that.
people.
Hang on. You tried to argue that they can't rely on animals for meat or anything. And
What do
your
animals
argument was,
eat?
well, yeah, plants. Guess what? They have plants. We just established that they can grow them.
Yeah,
That's what we're countering here. You said they can't grow the plants because so they won't be able to feed the animals. No, they can in a controlled environment. We just
not
proved
enough.
it.
Not enough. You know how much fucking mass livestock? Like
Okay,
how much
that's
how much
not an
like
argument. That's not
how
an
much
argument.
food?
That's not an argument. You can
You-
still
you-
move it inside. That's not an
Not
argument.
not for mass production of livestock.
That is
and
not
food.
an argument.
Yes, it literally is.
No, it's not. You can transport them inside.
What
Do it.
transport the
Use
crop?
the same
transport
materials
it-
you've been use the same materials you've been using to grow them to begin with. It's not that hard.
It's something that we already do
It's
today.
basic stuff we do in everyday lives.
Yeah,
Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
This
we
is-
don't.
This,
Not
Yes, we do.
not
do.
crop-
Yes, we
why,
do.
Why are we alive then?
Not
Why are we
crops
alive
for
then?
mass
Why are we
consumption.
alive then? Why are we alive then? Why?
Why?
We don't cook, not cook. We don't grow crops in in controlled and
You can
or
move. You can change that. You can change that.
we don't. You can't currently. You would. It's not feasible. or even
Also, I'm looking it up right now. People grow crops indoors already.
not enough for themselves for personal consumption. Yes.
What?
Not
That doesn't
No,
matter.
mass,
That doesn't matter.
on a
They can
mass
still-
level.
Yeah. Also,
not
this
on
is-
not absolutely.
you want to know why they do it for themselves? Because they don't need to. They don't need to mass produce this. They can
Yes,
do
you
this
do.
inside. What are you talking about?
You need to mass
And you
produce
can
it.
elevate
They can
the
grow this outside.
essentially elevate the process and just use what they do for personal usage and make
Yeah.
that norm
It doesn't matter if it's for
rather
personal
than growing
usage.
them
You can
outside.
change. You can change the purpose behind something. You don't? Do you not get that? Are you serious?
To feed mass production and to feed mass amounts of people, you can't do what you're talking about.
No. We just proved that you can. There is such a thing as indoor cropping. You can do this.
We don't do this for mass production and mass consumption.
It doesn't matter if we
But-
do. We,
but
we,
you- but
we
you
don't do it. The
can't.
reason we don't hang on.
That's-
You
The reason
can't.
we don't do it.
Yes, you
Yeah,
can.
hang on. We
for
can.
for current food production. You can
Stop.
absolutely not.
Let me, Colin. The reason we don't do this now is because we don't need to.
And it's also not.
But if we
not
needed to,
feasible
we
to do-
could. Though.
It's not
Yes.
feasible to do so either.
What?
We
What?
Why is
we
it not
could
feasible?
now.
We can do it right now.
I'm saying it's not feasible to do so for mass production. We cannot do that.
Why?
Why?
It is.
For the hundreds of millions of people we feed in the country or globally, we can't do
Yeah,
this.
you can do this inside.
No, you can't. There's not enough space.
Oh my
People
God.
do this in
Yes,
the real
there
world
is. We
right
already
now.
have
You
established
can create
like
factories for. You can create factories for this facilities.
yeah, exactly.
You can't be serious here.
There's no facility.
You're
Oh,
operating
God.
under the assumption that humans are lazy fucks who don't do anything and have no self-preservation instincts.
You can argue that we're not doing already that much to fight climate change. So this is not a very good argument. Like humans,
What?
What?
we're not doing much. We're not doing much to fight climate change.
What does climate change have anything to do with this?
Yeah, this
With-
is
with-
irrelevant entirely.
No, it's the point about preservation of the human race.
What?
We're not talking about so food production is a different thing than climate change.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
No,
more in regards to the environment.
The thing with
That's
climate change is they're trying to find a way to switch out fossil fuels and create renewable energy so that we can stop using fossil fuels. It's something that scientists are trying to do right now.
Yeah, and a significant portion of the voting population and the people in power don't believe that it's a thing. Or if
I
they
think
do
so-
believe it,
no,
hang on.
I think the majority of people do.
I didn't say this.
And even
I
if
didn't
that
say
is
the
the
majority.
case, even if that is
I didn't
the
say
case,
that the majority
that's
of us.
something you can. That's something you can establish in universe.
What?
That is something you can establish in universe that they don't believe in it, and you establish reasons for this.
Yeah, they say that
Maybe that's actually a good idea.
Maybe that's like
maybe
some
that
world
could have
building
been
they
like
could do in the movie.
yeah,
Hmm,
maybe that could have been the reason for why they weren't able to transfer.
Maybe design it so
Orders.
like these things are difficult to prove, so most people don't believe it.
So just to be clear, they do say this in the beginning of in the movie. They say
what?
they say that the governments of the world of the 20th and early 21st century were too focused on war and overconsumption and the societies that they didn't prepare for or acknowledge the ecological or the
What do you-
ecological
what do you-
catastrophes that
What does this have to do with them being able to move crops inside?
you're not able to move
Like
mass.
the
Yeah.
farmers who make
Yeah,
the
farmers aren't
crops.
soldiers. What are you
Can-
talking about?
Yeah, they can move things inside if they want to.
There's a
They
reason
don't-
we
they
have
don't need the
different
government's
positions
permission to
and
do
different
that.
roles.
Do you think farmers could currently move all of their crop production inside if they wanted to?
Yes, if they need
No.
to.
If they
yes.
wanted, if they needed to, yes, they could.
I don't
People
think this
grow
is.
things inside already.
Do you think they
And
could
this
grow
is
the?
not
Do you
this is
think
not
they
even
could?
out of necessity.
Do you think they could grow the current?
So how do you think we started to do things like work production indoors? Do you think stuff like working in a factory used to always be indoors?
In terms of the type of production that factories do for a significant portion of our history, yes, it was indoors, or a lot of it was.
No, before factories were invented, what do you think we did?
To be clear, a lot of the stuff we did before factories, we didn't really make or produce.
That's not answering the question.
That's not. Yeah, that's
You
not
didn't
the.
actually answer him.
What is your question? Just say it again. Sorry.
I'm saying we functioned with a bunch of different jobs out there that used to be outdoors that are now indoors. So you can do the same thing with crop production.
Like what? Like what jobs are you specifically talking about?
It doesn't
Factory
matter.
producing,
I'm just saying anything.
Say it again.
production
what-
of clothing, production of tires, production of materials, anything.
Wait,
Doesn't matter.
if you're talking about production of tires, at least, and also clothes, we have
Well, yeah,
for the
people
major-
produce things.
yeah, inside.
What's your point?
Yeah, we've for the things that you're talking about for most of our existence, we have not produced those things outside.
But there was a time before we did it indoors, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not for those specific things.
Yes.
What
First,
about
like
Yes,
tires?
there.
No,
Yes, there was. There had to be.
Well,
It's literally impossible. There always had to be.
No, for by the time we needed tires, we already had factories.
that was an example, you fucking cocksucker.
In terms of weaving and creating
And
clothes.
not to mention, you're sort of ignoring the point. You're trying
Yeah.
to divulge the point.
Yeah, you're kind of
Yeah.
latching on to like minute details when that doesn't change what's actually being said here.
No, the inherent issue at the heart of this is that those things either started or were very
What,
close
clothing?
to
Clothing?
No,
You
no,
serious?
that's not. No,
Clothing?
that's not the heart of the issue. But yeah,
Clothing.
the
Clothing
difference
started
between
before
that
we made things out inside. What are you talking about?
The difference between that and the types of production that you're talking about is to feed the
clothing
amount,
production started outside.
actually,
What about producing buildings, producing
Oh,
tools,
yeah.
producing materials to even make
Yep.
these things
Yeah.
to go inside? What are you talking about?
Yeah, we had to literally create a world in which we could do all these things inside before we could actually do them inside.
Yeah.
it would depend on the specific materials and types of production that you're talking about.
That
It-
what do you mean that would depend?
In terms of food
That
production,
is a distinction. Saying it depends on what the materials are. No, those are distinctions without differences. It doesn't matter. You still
Yes.
had to start outside. That's
Yeah,
how this works.
and to feed the current amount of people we currently do in this country,
Why can't you do this inside? Why?
because you can't. There,
A lot of it already
building
is
water-
done inside. And
water-
yeah,
yeah,
I was
water-
actually going to say a lot of it already is done inside
What
today.
about water production?
Most
What
of-
about water cleaning? A lot of that is done inside.
well, no, it's done through, but it is technically done inside. But it's
You
done.
bring the stuff outside and inside. They do this.
Well, it's done through rivers and natural sources of water. That's how they do it. They filter already natural water. I don't know what the distinction is. Again,
It's a
Also-
distinction without
also-
difference.
in terms of like crops, no, we do not produce a significant amount of the crops.
We don't produce a significant amount of them inside, but the reason is that we don't have to. It's still an option.
Yeah.
And also, no, it's not just that we don't need to right now.
No, we
It's that
don't need to. We don't need
It
to.
is that we don't need to. Yeah.
It's also that there's not enough space, or big
No,
enough building.
there is.
Yeah, they're big enough buildings. What are you talking about? You can't make them? You
Also,
can't make
Oh my
space? Are you
God.
also,
serious?
yeah. Also, you can make new
What?
space. You can make new buildings, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can convert already existent buildings into crop production.
Sorry, you can if this is an emergency, you can clear out buildings and put in new stuff that's more important.
So
And you can build new ones.
Just to be clear, you would to make current food production that we do the vast majority of outside in terms of crops, you would have to build buildings as large as cornfields, or as large
Yeah,
as
those exist.
not really
Buildings can be quite large.
Yeah.
as big as cornfields.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Jesus Christ.
Have you seen
There's not
a
an
building?
There's not an
dude.
Also, you need to
Wait,
account for
you
even
can't
if
be
they couldn't,
serious.
even if they couldn't, here's the problem. You can build multiple buildings to distribute this. This doesn't work. If it took four buildings to
Now that I
for
think
one-
about it,
let's
you could
do
just
some math. Let's pretend like it took four buildings for a cornfield. All right, take up the space in four buildings. Go. Four buildings each. You can still do that. That's still possible.
Perfectly hermetically sealed buildings that cannot contaminate the crops at all.
Yeah, people build
Yes.
these things. What?
yes, that is possible.
Yeah, you're operating on the assumption that that engineers and construction workers are all stupid. Like every single one of them are stupid.
I'm thinking about
You're
the
operating
logistics
under
of
the
this, and it
assumption
doesn't.
that they don't take basic precautions, or that they don't do tests, that they don't run through these things with the government at all, or even their own managers.
I mean, what do you think the Dust Bowl happened? Like, what do you think the actual Dust Bowl happened?
Do you
Well,
do you not understand? Okay, first off, that's irrelevant, but also, do you not understand the phrase that people learn from history?
We actually don't.
Currently have today.
We actually don't
We
because
currently have today.
we're already, according to scientists.
Wait, so you don't think?
No, according to scientists, we literally exist under the conditions necessary, under all of like the necessary components for another Dust Bowl to happen currently.
Oh my god,
So no, we don't really learn from our mistakes, do we?
Oh my God.
well,
dude!
Are you fucking kidding me?
If you're saying people always learn from their mistakes, it's not.
No, I
Clearly
did not
you
say.
haven't.
I did not say.
Oh.
I did not say always, dude. Gosh,
Okay,
Jesus
that was
Christ.
you're ignoring the point again.
we
Yeah.
don't. We don't.
The point
We don't
again.
learn from our mistakes
Generally,
a significant
people
amount of
would
the time.
want to avoid these things. Generally, this is why we have precautions for this stuff. Why do you think the world changed after 9/11? Because we want to avoid this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, and for the specific ecological disaster that they're talking about in the film,
Yeah,
we are.
it is world ending. It is world ending.
We have precautions for this stuff.
For the specific the type of ecological disaster they're talking about in the film, we're already primed, and we're not even like really actively trying to prevent it again.
No, that's not true.
We are currently according to like ecological scientists, we are currently like
They
existing.
literally had an entire space mission set up for this. They are trying to prevent this.
No, they're not trying to prevent the Dust Bowl.
Yeah, yes.
What?
Well, they're trying
Yes,
to.
they
they're try-
are.
Wait,
Yeah.
in the movie
not
or
a
in real
counter.
life?
What? No, we're talking about the movie.
No, wait. The movie is not trying to prevent the Dust Bowl. It's trying
What?
to
We didn't
find.
say that. We're saying that they're trying to prevent the problems that are happening in the environment.
No,
They're
they
trying
aren't.
to take precaution. What? You just said
Wait.
that they were putting stuff inside.
You
And apparently it
said
wasn't
you
working.
literally said that NASA was trying to do this stuff.
Yeah. Why do you think they're making the space
And
mission?
also your
That would
reference
have to be
wasn't
government approved.
correct. Actually, well, yeah, the mission would have to be government approved, but
It
Also,
was.
the reference that you gave about NASA trying to preserve the plants inside or whatever, as I said, that was not something that they thought to do at the beginning. That was a last ditch effort.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I think they've established. They say in the movie that they've been since the blight began. They've been trying to essentially save crops and keep them indoors. But
So that
it's not
helps
been-
my argument.
That's not-
That helps my argument.
But
You're
it
kidding me?
Yeah.
wasn't successful.
Why? Why?
I don't know the reason they say it was successful, but it wasn't.
So it's-
successful.
And
bad
they
world
need
building.
to
So it's bad
establish
world
why
building.
it wasn't successful then. But they don't.
Yeah.
I'm trying
So by
to.
saying I don't know why it happened, well, there's your problem. We don't
Then
know why.
yeah, that
You did our work for us.
In terms of so the blight is essentially a bacteria or a fungi that is destroying or ravaging most of the Earth's crops.
So
I don't know.
you didn't actually explain it.
They say this in
You didn't actually answer us.
you didn't answer the question. You just decided to go with another one.
So if it is a bacteria, yeah, it could be yes, theoretically theoretically or accidentally brought into like the crops that are kept inside. They
They
why
accidentally
are-
brought in bacteria in there? What?
Say it again.
How do you accidentally bring in that bacteria? What are you talking about?
So the blight is caused by a bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
You could accidentally bring in that bacteria that is in the Earth's atmosphere.
No.
to the-
The buildings that would be in place for these things have cleansing before people go in
Yeah.
from all outside potential contaminations.
And also that's true, I guess. But from they say that the blight had already come into contact with most of Earth's crops by the time they already knew about it. If I'm not mistaken. They're trying to grow as much as possible and see if we can output blight while it still exists. But they're running out of crops to grow because the only crop that they can grow left is corn. And
Which is why they should have done this before it got to that point.
do you think it's not possible that the governments of the world didn't actually take the threat seriously?
No, you
Stop.
stop. We already talked about this. Farmers do not need permission from the government to move their production indoors.
Actually, they do.
Oh my God.
No, they don't.
A lot of, or not government, but a lot of farms.
People do this in their homes. People do
Oh.
this in their homes.
Also, no. Just be clear.
Yeah, they do.
would-
We
you would-
they actually do.
farmers would not be able.
We
Farmers
actually
would-
do.
Farmers would not be able to, because farmers
Oh
don't.
my God.
Farmers
What?
don't just make food. Farmers don't.
Dude.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
Yeah, we showed examples numerous times.
No, farmers.
We've
do-
already been over this, dude.
No,
Wrong.
you're saying that they can just bring their crops inside and make food for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, but
No.
also they can just make buildings for this. We already talked about this.
Do you have any
Y'all
idea how much
be going-
time this would?
They
Hey,
have
or-
the time. This is time they have.
No, they don't.
What is with you in making arguments? Oh, this would take time, therefore they're not going to do it. But this
No,
would change the fact that they're
no.
better off if they do that.
No, it would take.
You
time
did this
and-
earlier with Spider-Man
No,
2.
it would
Jesus.
take time, and by the time that they had even theoretically built all these,
No,
That doesn't mean you don't do it.
Oh my
No,
God.
I
that's
said-
not an argument.
I'm
That's
not
an
saying
argument.
I'm not saying they didn't attempt to. I said by the times that it would take to
But they
build.
No,
but they
that's
but they
not an
didn't.
argument.
We know in the movie they didn't attempt to do it.
Yeah, this is bad world building.
You fucking sidetracked me. Sorry. So just to be clear, most farmers currently do not actually own the corn that they're producing. Just to be clear, they are either owned by multinational companies. Some farms actually farm for the government themselves, so they can't actually bring.
So everything we said about the farmers would just translate to the companies.
Why would they?
because the companies, in order to make a profit and keep their production going and keep it sustainable, they would adapt.
Why?
Otherwise, they would go out of business.
Not inherently, especially
Yes,
The food business will
inherently.
tank.
if
The
Why would they do that?
the food and production industry would tank if they didn't adapt to this.
if the society as a whole was not taking it seriously as it was starting, which
They
we
were.
They were,
no, we don't. It hasn't been established.
yeah, it has.
What?
Established that they would take
The
a
government
world-ending threat
wasn't taking it
seriously? Are you
seriously.
kidding me? They made the whole space mission. Stop
No.
arguing they didn't
Oh
take
my
it
god.
seriously. You can't
so
say
just
that.
to be just to be clear, the timeline of what we're talking about is like decades. They didn't start.
That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
No,
when it
they-
started. No, when
It
there was a
doesn't matter
pattern
when
of
it
this,
started. Dude.
When there was a pattern
They
of
did-
this,
they
they would have
didn't
started doing this.
They didn't
This is not
start.
an argument.
They didn't start. No, it's not. You're not making an argument because you're not engaging with
No,
the
I don't.
actual.
I
Oh
don't
my
think
fucking
you're.
God.
I think you're
You're
just
not
doing the
engaging
same
with
thing
the
you
actual
did.
content. You're
I
not
think.
engaging.
I think you're just doing the same thing you did with Spider-Man 2
No,
earlier.
you're not engaging with the actual content of the movie. In the
I think
in the
this sounds
content of the movie,
misrepresentative.
NASA did not start this project in terms of interstellar travel when this NASA was actually closed down by the government because they refused to because the heads of NASA refused to essentially bomb other countries and used like their aircraft to bomb other countries. This is set in the film. They were closed down, but once the government realized that what they've been doing over decades was folly, and that they were ignoring the problem, they tasked not.
Wait, sorry.
NASA.
What did you say they were doing the past decade?
Past decades, they were focused on overconsumption, overproduction, wars.
What do you mean over?
That doesn't.
Production?
So
Why?
that doesn't. Well, yeah. First off, why? But also, that doesn't apply to companies and/or the farmers that are making these crops,
Yeah.
or scientists. That
I mean,
only applies to soldiers and the government.
what do you think NASA, or like a significant what do you think a significant portion of scientists and NASA get their funding? Like NASA is a government organization.
They wouldn't. Okay. They wouldn't have anything to do with war.
Well,
That's not what NASA's built for.
NASA is literally a member of the Air Force. It's literally a military organization.
No, that wasn't the point.
Yes. So the reason they were closed down, they were shut down in the movie, is because they refused, as like there were essentially world wars heating up. They refused to, the heads of NASA refused to bomb other countries, and they were essentially, NASA was essentially taken down or shut down essentially.
Wait, so they were shut down because they refused to essentially mass massacre another country?
Yes.
Why?
Or bomb, because NASA, a lot of governments currently are.
If you think the government today would be dumb enough to do that, then you're incredibly naive.
Dumb enough to what? Bomb other countries?
No, to shut down NASA because they refused to bomb another country.
Yeah, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
No.
International
At
relations
least
are
our
a thing here,
government.
by the way. That's important.
Yeah.
Say it again.
International relations are
relations.
important.
Yeah.
You have to account. They don't account for this at all.
They say most of the countries are currently at war in the movie, or were at war at the time.
That doesn't explain
That doesn't.
anything.
Yeah.
What international relations are you like?
They would still care about Also, if they're going at war right now, wouldn't you want to stay out of that?
Stay out of. Wait, what? What are you talking about?
If there's a war going on, and
America.
if you get involved, chances are you can spread the conflict. So depending on the context of the situation, you don't want to get involved.
I mean,
Why do you think it took us so long to even decide to get involved with Nam?
it didn't actually take us a significant amount of time.
It kind of did.
I'm forgetting the exact timeline of Nam, like the exact amount of years. I don't think it took us a while. We were involved in the in South.
Yeah, and there were a lot of mistakes made.
Yeah, and why do you think that was like the biggest mistake we like ever made?
To try to fight communism and try to essentially keep a bigger handle of the world over the USSR.
So after that had happened, the government would, if something like this were to happen in the future, would take reference to and refer to that mistake that they made.
Wait, most of the government doesn't see Vietnam as a mistake. What do you even currently? But they don't see it as a mistake. What are you talking about?
Getting involved if you don't have to can be catastrophic.
Yeah.
How is that?
We do this all the time.
What?
No, we don't. No, we don't.
We don't.
We did this with Iraq. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
So
we went to war with Iraq.
What do you mean? So what do you mean when you say one, we don't do this all the time, and two, we didn't need to get involved with Iraq?
We didn't need to. It was literally based on a lie.
So that implies that they believed it was true.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant.
Well, the people in power.
That's such a bad comparison.
No,
if you're saying they're operating off a lie.
No.
A lie implies in which they didn't know it was a lie at the time.
No, I'm not saying the people in power of the military believed the lie. They knew it was a lie. Like the president knew it was a fucking lie.
What?
Are you kidding me? You can't be serious.
The president and the vice president and members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff literally lied to Congress and the UN.
What are you referring to?
When the reasons for us going into Iraq were literally.
I request elaboration.
Okay. We were the reason we were told we were invading Iraq is because Saddam Hussein was a mass dictator. He was, but that he had weapons of mass destruction, and that if there is even a 1% chance that he's going to use them, we need to take it as an absolute certainty. Funnily enough, that line was actually directly lifted from Batman v Superman. Was directly lifted from I'm pretty sure it was Dick Cheney, if I'm not mistaken. It was someone on the
So you think they didn't actually believe that he had?
Yes, the people currently in power did not actually believe that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. They lied.
So
all right.
So why are you assuming that?
I gotta head to dinner. I gotta go to dinner now. I will rewatch the film at some point because I'm down to continue with this at some other point.
You're not coming back.
Well, I might. It depends. I don't know. I'm about to head to dinner. I'll probably be back in like 30 minutes to an hour if it's still going on.
All right.
But yeah, we'll definitely do a Thumbcast watch party on it.
That'd be great.
Yes, I would love to be a part of that.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
See ya. Okay, continue.
Yeah, I'm trying to finding the citation for that. I could show that Bush and the principal members of government lied about WMDs in Iraq.
Wait, hold on. We were talking about Interstellar before. How did we get here? I'm wondering how we got here.
It's all of a sudden all political.
No, so because we were talking about why would a government continue to make the mistakes that it's made in the past, like go in wars.
No, that's not what I said.
Yes, we were using Vietnam as an example because we were talking about the governments of the world and Interstellar.
I never said that it was absolutely certain that they would learn. I'm saying most would.
I don't know if this is the case, especially like just use an example of America, which is the country that is the government that we're talking about in Interstellar. We have not learned our lesson. We still haven't learned our lesson in regards to how we
in regards to
in regards to warfare, how we how many wars like we start
Okay.
or involved in that we don't actually need to be involved in. It's not a defensive war; it's an offensive war
Okay.
based on material interests.
Okay, so in Interstellar, where is it explained as to why countries are at war and why we're involved?
It's not. It's not explained in specifics.
That's not a good thing.
You can make like sweeping statements about like the past. I mean, when you're writing a story, you can say, "Oh, we were many of the countries were at war." You don't have to say the specific.
No, because you can't, because the whole plot of the movie and the whole setup of the world that we're in relies on the fact that they were apparently too focused on war and other things.
From what I recollect, actually, I think they might have said over resources.
What is that? That can mean there's
natural
you
resources.
do so you do realize that can mean a lot of things.
Since we're talking about the 20th and 21st century, we're most likely talking about oil and natural gas.
Where does it say that? And why are we fighting over that right now?
We already do this.
What?
A lot of our wars in the Middle East are very much influenced by our material interests.
But this is in the future.
It's
So
only
why
like
is this something that they're fighting about?
It's only like I'm trying to think about it. The timeline of when like wars like started is right about now over natural gas in terms of like in the timeline of the movie.
I don't think no.
The wars over natural resources and natural gas and oil and all that stuff. We're
No,
starting.
that's not in the movie.
Well, they don't say oil and natural gas. They say natural resources.
Right. So that doesn't mean it's necessarily oil.
When we talk about natural resources, we politically like we're talking about government.
No. Okay. So
when you say natural resources, you mean like
it's not just the thing. I'm talking about the reason why it's being fought over, and that's never explained. And why was that enough to deter them away from this problem with the crops? And also, why was this something that was so big and so important that they couldn't maybe perhaps do both at the same time?
Because they didn't take it seriously until it was already too late. They say this.
That's not. No. The people making it and the production, like the farmers that are doing this, did.
Do we what? They either wouldn't know this is the case because it's starting out, or they wouldn't either take it seriously because the government isn't taking it seriously either. Or the corporation.
No, they would. They would. They literally so the only thing that is established is that the government wasn't concerned about it at the time because of other stuff that was going on. That doesn't mean everyone else who is actually involved with stuff like food production wouldn't. The entire business and food industry would collapse if they didn't adapt to this new environment.
Also, I'm reading up more on blight because just to be more contextual with this conversation, blight it affects the soil. It's not just the plants; it's the soil that you grow from the plants. So yes,
that makes it worse because the soil they would know like pretty much instantly. Then if it also affects the soil, that actually kind of makes it a little worse.
If it's a mass blight, they can't really do much to prevent this.
Well, we already went over how they could.
What soil are you going to use if the fungus, because it's a fungal.
So when you produce more and if you have everything moved inside, then it'll stop affecting the plants in the soil if you're in a controlled environment. This is something we already have in place.
If it's already affecting the soil, how are you going to stop it from affecting the soil. If it's already affecting a lot of
you get new soil when you start doing it in a controlled environment.
if the soil,
Once you start doing it in a controlled environment, you need to have a new setup. It's not going to be like it is now, where it's planted in the ground.
well, you would still need soil to do it, and if the soil of the earth is being affected, where would you get unaffected soil?
How would you get unaffected soil? What are you talking about?
So soil is
You,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, you can literally make your own.
You need
Make your own, not just soil. You could make. Actually, now that I think about it, you could make your own new growth medium.
What's the growth medium that we're gonna for mass production of crops?
It could literally be anything.
How are you gonna grow these plants without soil?
Obviously soil would be something you could make, some like new ones that aren't affected, but also you could use a different growth medium, like find a new and invented one that gets you the plants.
What's okay? So for mass production of crops, what would be the alternative growth medium besides soil?
In this universe, I have no idea, because the movie doesn't really establish any good world building. So it basically doesn't answer any of the questions I have, which is the problem.
There's no other, like, as far as I can tell, there's no other method for growing mass amounts of crops.
That doesn't account for everything else that SK and I were talking about.
So
it doesn't answer any questions for why they didn't move production inside.
It would need soil that's already
it doesn't account for why the world or everyone, or no, not everyone, why the government wasn't somehow able to help with this, the world was in a state to the point where everything was apparently dedicated to wars that were going on. It's never explained as to why or how any of that even happened. It's just said, and it's never explained.
They said there were wars across. They said there were wars across the 21st century.
Yes, and it doesn't explain what that means or how they happened.
Over natural resources.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yes, it does. What are you talking about?
It doesn't.
We're fighting over the scarce resources we have in this world, the locations and productions of those resources. Yeah,
not touched.
Go ahead.
I said it's not touched upon.
I don't think it needs to be touched upon beyond what is already said.
It does.
Why? If there's a line of dialogue establishing that a significant amount of the population is not alive anymore.
If it did address it, it would fix the problems.
What? This isn't a problem. Like, this isn't a problem. Like, they've set up the world, I think, is probably best as they could in the context of a movie that is already too long and has to focus on other things as well. I think they explained the world enough.
Wait, hold on. So you said it's all. Wait, how long is it?
It's a near 3-hour movie.
Okay. So
you can't really cut anything else out to build the length in other areas. Because literally,
you don't have to. You can just add more time.
this is not really the case in terms of studio.
It
film.
is.
No, it's not.
It is.
God.
It's art. Most studios aren't keen on releasing 3-hour movies.
No. Okay, so you realize at the time Nolan basically ruled Warner Brothers. He basically could do whatever he wanted.
Not whatever he wanted, because if I'm not mistaken,
basically.
If I'm not mistaken, he had said it was already a fight to get the movie to the length it already was, which if I'm not mistaken is like
that's not
at least 3.5 hours.
There's no way that's true, because The Dark Knight Rises was literally the same length.
No, Interstellar is his longest film. I know that.
I know The Dark Knight Rises is close to that length.
Okay, so Interstellar is new.
Also, Endgame was a 3-hour movie that became the most successful movie ever.
Yeah.
And
So-
also with the amount that Interstellar made on its own, like at the box office, it literally would have made that much money. So the length is irrelevant.
So
Interstellar length has nothing to do with the quality of the writing either.
Interstellar is nearly 20 minutes longer than The Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not. The Dark Knight, the second one, is 2 hours and 32 minutes, and The Dark Knight Rises is 15 minutes longer, and Interstellar is about 19 minutes longer than The Dark Knight.
Oh wait, I actually might have misread. I saw The Dark Knight. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, it's only 5 minutes. Never mind. I misread.
Yeah.
I don't think they would
mention length has nothing to do with the quality of the writing either.
Exactly.
No, it's contextual to the pacing of the movie and the pacing of the writing. It absolutely is.
It's really not.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, how is length relevant?
Because you have to pace the writing and the scene.
As long as your movie is good, then it doesn't matter how long it is.
Yeah.
You have a limited amount of time to do all the things you want, and the rest of the things in the movie are more important.
You don't have a limited time. You can
Yes,
literally
you do.
You literally can take as much time as you want.
No, you can't.
You literally can.
No, in maybe in terms of like indie filmmaking, in terms of studio filmmaking.
No,
and
in terms of any filmmaking you want.
This is ridiculous. What are you talking about?
How is it ridiculous?
Filmmakers do not have an infinite amount of time to shoot or cut their movie, especially for theatrical releases.
Sure, they do.
No, they don't. It's
do.
It's another studio's money. What are you talking about? The studio is not going to give them infinite resources to do whatever they want.
So then you go to other people. If that does happen, but with Christopher Nolan, that would have never happened.
He literally says he's like never gotten a blank check in his life, and it is like always been a struggle. Always been.
Are you kidding me?
It's always been a negotiation for whatever movie he's ever made to get the funding that it needs to get. He's just good at negotiating. But
that's not. So you do realize that after he made The Dark Knight, they let him make Inception.
Yeah, but it's not a blank check, and it's a concept. He didn't get a blank check to do whatever he wants on it. It was still a negotiation.
No, he did, because not only does he have full creative control over his movies, but also he literally said that he had to make Inception before Dark Knight Rises, and they let him do it.
Wait, so he made Inception on the deal that he would do another Batman movie, which he was not really.
Yes.
Yes,
that's correct. Yes, and they allowed that.
But
with the original contract that he had, they didn't have to allow that because it was a 3-movie deal.
I understand that.
So they didn't have to say okay, but they did.
Yeah, but Just because they greenlight a movie does not mean they will give him whatever amount of resources he needs to do the
Okay,
movie.
the amount of that his movies were producing were the most successful, or at least it was usually the most successful thing that was coming out of Warner Brothers.
So he literally said that there's like he doesn't believe in the concept of a blank check, and that with whatever movie he
It
makes,
doesn't matter what he believes in.
it literally does. Well, like
It literally doesn't. That's irrelevant to my point.
He's talking about the process of making his movies and funding his movies. He never says he's gotten like a blank check to do whatever he wants, and that it is like always it is always a struggle.
If you have full creative control over your projects,
it's not full creative control. You have more than other directors.
So by definition, that's literally full creative control. If it's the most any director at the studio has ever gotten, then that's literally what it means.
But you do not have full control over the length of the movie. You do not
okay. So if he didn't have full control over the length, it wouldn't even be as long as it already is.
What
you realize that studios usually would not want to put a movie out that's even that long. So if he didn't have some say in it, then it wouldn't be as long as it already is.
So the movie is only 11 minutes from being literally 3 hours long. Studios at that time were certainly not really open to releasing 3-hour movies theatrically.
Wolf of Wall Street literally came out like the previous year.
Wolf of Wall Street is not, if I'm not mistaken, that is not 3 hours long, but
It is.
Okay. Scorsese has more influence and more.
No, he doesn't. He literally does not.
I think he's at this point he was more established than Nolan was, even though I think that Nolan is
not even close. He was more established in terms of like the amount, like the fans of filmmaking. Like obviously, like film buffs and cinephiles didn't think Nolan was better than Scorsese, but in terms of what they were able to produce and the amount they were able to get, Christopher Nolan was significantly higher than Scorsese.
I don't know how we would show this.
It literally is like that. Martin Scorsese literally is having to work with streaming services now in order to make his movies.
Sure, because they're not blockbusters. If he was making blockbusters, arguably he would.
He doesn't make blockbusters.
Yeah, I agree. The reason Nolan gets as much money as he does is because he makes blockbusters.
Exactly.
I'm saying if Scorsese wanted to do a blockbuster, he would most likely get the funding he needed, but just not that amount of.
No.
Say it again.
Not really, because he has never done blockbusters before. So if he suddenly one day just decided, hey, I want to make blockbusters, studios wouldn't just fall on his feet, especially given how his previous movies, at least financially speaking, especially The Irishman, weren't that successful.
Because they're not blockbusters. They have
It doesn't matter.
Scorsese movies, at least like especially a lot of his modern ones, have comparable budgets to blockbusters. But just in actuality, in the content in the form of their work.
Wait, what? His previous movies haven't had comparable funds. What are you talking about?
Most of his movies have at least like 100 million budgets.
Do you think The Departed had a budget anywhere close to Avengers Endgame?
No, but that's
exactly.
Avengers Endgame is like literally one of the heights of the fucking in terms of budget. What are you talking? Like, A lot
Okay,
of like,
so just a regular MCU movie then.
which is at least like 100-something million, if not 2 million.
Hang on. Let's
Okay, Wolf of Wall Street is 100 million.
I said The Departed. 90 million. That's not anywhere close to what blockbusters get.
Sorry, I cut out. My bad.
Oh, I just said The Departed was 90 million. That's
90 million in 2005. What's the I don't know what the inflation is on that. What like I'm trying to think
I don't care. That's not the point.
It's
The point is that Martin Scorsese doesn't get as much as blockbusters, or just we don't even have to compare it to blockbusters. He doesn't get as much as Christopher Nolan does.
Yeah.
Certainly The Irishman got a blockbuster budget. It was made for 159 million.
That's not.
Usually blockbusters are made from usually 100 million, at least like 150 million at least.
They're usually more than that.
I'm trying to think of what an example of a blockbuster currently is. What was the Dark Knight budget? I'm trying to think of like what the average budget of a blockbuster movie today is.
Probably somewhere around 2 to 250 million. That would probably be my guess.
The Dark Knight was 180. Trying to think. Dunkirk.
I don't think Dunkirk is a blockbuster, but okay.
No, I mean, it is a block. But Dunkirk, it was 100 to 150.
Not every movie Nolan makes is a blockbuster.
I think they are. He's just one of the only directors working today to essentially make auteur films out of blockbusters. There's not independent movies. They certainly get the budget of blockbusters.
Other than maybe Memento, I don't think I would say any of his movies are auteur movies.
Or no, I'm not saying auteur movies. He is able to bring his auteur vision to his movies. Is what I'm saying. Interstellar had a budget of 165 million. I think at least The Irishman is comparable to a blockbuster.
Irishman was less than that.
Not 5 million. The Irishman is 100.
Like almost 20 million.
No, the Irishman had a budget of.
It was 150, I thought.
It was 159.
Okay, that's basically.
Yeah.
That's not even really. I don't even know how we got on this once again.
I was making the point that not every director, even directors who get more leeway than most other directors, like Christopher Nolan, can make whatever movie they want for whatever runtime they want. The only example I could think of is Zack Snyder, and that was literally just a deal so he could just have his final fucking vision.
I was gonna say the only reason he was able to do that was because of how strong and popular the release the Snyder Cut was.
Yeah, it's not because they liked him. It was just because they were being bothered so much by the fans, and they saw an opportunity.
No. It's because they realized, given how popular this hashtag is, it would make a shit ton of money.
And it ended up not making a ton of money because it was only released on streaming service.
What the money they make from subscriptions is the money they make for the movie. What do you mean?
I think the issue with releasing with movies of these budgets only on streaming services is that you're never going to make your the amount of money back, because the second you release it on a streaming service, there's an immediate HD like rip of a movie people can just pirate. It's not like when you release like a budgets of that size.
I'm talking about their subscriber count.
Yeah, there's currently the model for like making money on there's these streaming services besides Netflix, maybe certainly not HBO Max and certainly not Disney Plus, do not have enough as big of a subscriber base or as big of a library to essentially.
I think Disney Plus does.
And there's also a bit of a problem with releasing it otherwise. The thing is, in theater, like releasing it in theaters, not the best idea because the COVID stuff.
Yeah, obviously.
I
I would have suggested them trying to release it in theaters around this time or maybe later.
What's going on?
Because theoretically, it's really the only way I think they could have made their money back on the.
Okay. So now that SK's back, if you don't mind, I'd like to just get back to Interstellar because
Hell yeah.
It was on a side tangent. I apologize.
Well, I would like to before you continue with that, I would like to bring up something to SK.
Is it about the tech argument?
Yeah. Hold on, fuck! I gotta do something real quick.
All right, yeah.
You just want to stream Interstellar later so we can watch it, so we can just talk about it.
I don't know if I'll have time for that tonight, but
SK's gotta watch the Kung Fu Panda movies.
Yeah, I gotta watch 2 tonight.
All right, I'm back.
First one was fucking great. Hey, what's up?
So where did we leave off about Interstellar?
We got kind of sidetracked, unfortunately. It's mainly my fault. I apologize.
All right, no worries.
My point.
I haven't watched Interstellar, so this will be interesting to hear.
Yeah, right. My point was that they set. I think they set up the world building enough, just the amount that's like necessary. But I don't think they really could have. With the length of the movie, I don't really think they.
That's not an excuse. I don't care how long it is.
They could have made it longer.
No, not one. This isn't always the case, and two, I don't think they need more. I don't think they need to do it anymore.
We just highlighted numerous gaps in the world building. So if we can highlight these, then yes, they did need to spend more time.
There aren't actually gaps.
But they are. We've just established that. Yeah.
So, blight is a thing that affects the air, the wind, the water, the soil, and is carried over by.
It's still better off to start out with. It's still better off to start out with putting your crops inside.
Yeah, what if
done that?
Humans didn't take it seriously? Like we don't take a lot of things.
That's not a counter argument because they did.
No, they didn't.
Then why are they trying to come up with solutions for it?
They're trying. Eventually, at the end of their life, they're trying to prevent it.
So they just decided it was important later. What?
Also,
they realized the gravity.
As someone who hasn't watched the film, some humans take things overly serious, and other humans don't. You can't just say humans in general don't take things seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
doesn't work.
We can do this in real life comparisons. Like compare the US's response to COVID-19 with South Korea's response to COVID-19. It's like, well, clearly one country took it more seriously than the other.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on the person.
Sure, I'm not disputing that. I'm talking about America. America is the country within the movie that they're in. So I think conceivably they would not respond. Considering that America didn't respond effectively to the Dust Bowl of the 1930s, we're not responding to a lot of the effectively responding to a lot of the ecological disasters we are facing currently in real life. It's possible and maybe even probable that the U.S. government wouldn't respond to the ecological disasters fast enough or in a efficient enough manner.
No, it's the whole world that's suffering from this, not just America.
Yeah, but also a lot of the other governments of the world, not even just America, a lot of the governments of the world still aren't actually taking uh, climate change or ecological disasters. Like seriously, there's
That
still
doesn't change anything.
America's the worst one among the.
Those are like the climate change. Those are like slow, gradual changes. The blight from what you're describing is fucking catastrophic.
I mean,
Yeah,
Unless the
they're
blight was
not.
like
They're
this
not. They're
slow,
not
unless the
comparable.
blight was like this slow thing that was creeping
I
up
mean,
on them without them noticing.
it was happening over decades. That's what's established in the movie. It wasn't an instant thing. It was like it's happening
No.
over decades.
But what does that change?
No. Even then, some governments are indeed tackling things like climate change. For example, that one of the reasons, like the entire UN came together to make the Paris Climate Agreement.
Yeah, the Paris Climate Agreement is still not largely enough. Is not really enough, largely speaking, in terms of the timetable, because some countries aren't even a part of it. The biggest polluters aren't a part of it, so it's not really.
No, the
at this point.
America was a part of it, and it was the biggest polluter until recently because
we were a
reasons,
part of it
because-
for like maybe.
Yeah.
We were a part of it for like maybe a year when it was like signed, or maybe a year or two when it was signed. We were almost immediately taken out of it, and then since then it's gotten worse. So
We were taken out of it by someone who lost the popular vote. So,
but it's a relatively close popular vote.
and even then, that was despite the fact the U.S. government said we're withdrawing, a lot of state and local governments were like, we're still going to adhere by the principles of the Paris Climate Agreement.
A lot of blue states did, a lot of red states didn't,
and a lot of them did. It's almost like some government, some politicians, and people in power respond better to things like this than others. So to have the entire world suffering from this sounds pretty dumb.
Yeah,
and contrived.
America's in terms of, we're talking about an ecological disaster that affects crops. America, from what if I'm remembering correctly, is the biggest producer of crops in the world. We still import like most or a significant portion of the crops to across the entire world.
When this started to happen, we would stop doing that.
How are the other people going to be fed in the effect? Like
they would worry.
By the way, you mixed up your wording. You said import instead of exports.
Sorry,
so I put that out. That annoyed me a little bit.
I misspoke. Sorry.
They would be taking care of their own country before they can help others.
I don't think this is always the case.
Why would that not be the case?
Who is taking care of whose country first? What do you mean?
The U.S. would take care of their own country before they take care of someone else's.
Basically, we would let other countries starve in order to fix our own country first. Is what he's saying.
Yes, they would.
Yeah.
Sure, but we'd also. Sorry. If we're not one, there'd be a portion of the time when the disaster is first starting out where people wouldn't like notice it or notice that we have a blight. There'd be a timetable in between people like it's starting to happen and people noticing it. So if it's as big as the movie is describing, it could have already affected a significant amount of the soil and crops.
That doesn't change anything.
Yet does.
You should still be doing all of these things that we've brought up.
Again,
regardless of what it's affected.
So if we're talking about a blight that is affecting most of the crops that we currently grow and most of the soil that we're currently planting on, how are we gonna get past this? Like, what's the solution?
We've already been over this.
What soil are you going to use to grow these plants? Grow this max amount of crops that you need to grow. There's currently, as far as I know, there's no method of growing the amount of soil, not the amount of crops that would be needed to feed to mass produce and feed the country.
And I'm going to eat dinner. I'll be right back.
Right. As far as I know, there's no method besides using soil as the main method of growth. These crops to besides for mass production. Soil is the only way, and since the blight is affecting the soil and is traveling in the air, it's traveling through animals and humans. Like what? How are you going to mass produce for the? Sorry, I can't speak right now. I'm tired. How are you going to mass produce this food for the mass population of like the country? You're not going to be able to do it effectively in time, and it's just going to spread the blight further.
I was gonna say, I think we should table this for later when Grant gets back.
You want to talk about another aspect of the movie?
Well, I mean, I don't really want to get too much into a bunch of Interstellar because obviously, I'd have to rewatch it again if I wanted to talk more extensively about it. But I mean, yeah, there's other stuff to talk about. Oh, hello, Comic Legend.
Oh, yeah, I have nothing to add for Interstellar. I don't find those kind of movies interesting personally, because I heard they're really bad usually.
I don't
Comic Legend.
prejudge.
What was that? There was one of them that I watched, and unironically, just out of nowhere in the movie, they're like in the space station. This is just some random space movie, so I don't know the name of it yet. So what happens is, just randomly they open a door and they see a bunch of dead spacemen. And there's like just a fucking ape in there, and I'm like, "What the fuck is happening?
Wait,
what is this movie?" And then there's literally a portion where they're on the moon, and there's these fucking moon pirates. Moon pirates.
What?
Wait. So
you see why I don't watch these movies.
You're talking about Ad Astra, and we're talking.
I think so.
I don't
Is
know.
the one where like one of the guys goes crazy in a fucking space station because he's alone, and then he dies because he gets disconnected from the cord, and he flies out into space, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah,
Comic Legend.
He grows insane